Undocumented farm workers are the backbone of America's farm industry. Already living on the margins, the California drought is hitting them the hardest. People, power, media went to the heart of California's Central Valley in towns like Mendota to find out how the drought is impacting workers and their families. We interviewed an undocumented farm worker, her son, a social worker, a city official, and local youth on what they're experiencing and seeing because of the loss in jobs caused by the drought. Enadina Babanco is a farm worker living in Fresno City with her children.
Estoy siendo afectada porque pues cómo le va a hacer uno para sacar a su familia adelante si no hay agua, no hay trabajo. Es un gran problema para uno como madre.
In place for decades, a system of reservoirs, canals, and river deltas brought water from the nearby Sierra Nevada mountains to make the Central Valley America's breadbasket. California provides half of the nation's fruit, vegetables, and nuts. But as social worker Candy Caro points out, the drought has drastically reduced available water for farming.
The river used to be up to where the levees are. Now, if you look at the river, it's less than a foot deep.
She knows what this means for job prospects in the area.
The seasons that lasted 3 or 4 months have gone down to like maybe 5 weeks. You'll see more and more tree crops, which used to be row crops. Farmers used to hire up to 50 to take care of the row crops. And now farmers can just hire 3 people, put the drip lines, turn on the water, that's it.
A 2014 UC Davis report estimated that statewide, some 17,000 seasonal and part-time jobs will be lost because of the drought. Nearly 90% of those jobs are in the Central Valley. The Central Valley is inland from the Pacific Coast and runs 450 miles from Redding to Bakersfield. The Central Valley will lose 409,000 acres of croplands due to the drought.
While the official unemployment numbers for places like Mendota already seem bad, anywhere from 30 to 50%, the real unemployment rate could be as high as 70% when you factor in undocumented workers who can't find jobs.
Yo soy de México. Me vine a Tijuana y me vine para acá porque pensé que hay un poco más de oportunidad y para sacar a mis hijos adelante. Los efectos que he visto ahorita sobre la sequía es que no está acabando el trabajo, no está habiendo producción en el trabajo de la fruta, está afectando a todos.
Babanco must travel farther and farther to look for work, and when she gets there, sometimes there isn't a job available. When she does find work, she works hourly instead of getting paid by each pallet filled. This ends up being less money for her at the end of the month. The drought is worsening already exploitative conditions for undocumented farm workers. Caro says they often entrust labor contractors who charge a fee in addition to the ride to the work site.
When it comes to wages, they receive less than minimum wage. Sometimes they could work for $5 an hour. A lot of times the undocumented workers are afraid to even say anything because then they feel like they're going to be found out and then deported.
Miguel is Babanco's son. He knows firsthand the fears that Caro speaks of.
Growing up, you're scared. You're frightened about what could happen to you. Like, what if my family gets separated? What if my mom gets deported? What if I get deported? That's something that affected me profoundly. It also impacted other members of my family, like my mom, in that she was very limited in the kind of work that she could do and the kinds of jobs that she could find. That's one of the biggest reasons that we stay here in Fresno and we live here in Fresno and try to work in the surrounding region. It's very difficult to uproot that level of comfort, that absence of fear, and try to take that to a different community.
The Southern Poverty Law Center estimates that at least 6 out of 10 of all farm workers in the U.S. are undocumented. While there may be some comfort level for Babanco and her family because of the prevalence of undocumented workers in the Central Valley, there are no sanctuary cities in Fresno County. They can be deported by ICE, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement at any time. This also means there's limited resources that undocumented workers can access while trying to make ends meet during the drought. They can't receive federal unemployment benefits or any county services such as food, medical, and housing assistance. So a major way they survive is sharing housing.
You could find 3 or 4 families very easily living in a shack in the middle of the fields, living together and sharing the expenses.
This is a homeless encampment near the train tracks in Mendota, where several families live. This man was building a new shack for a friend, saying he didn't have time for an interview before departing to get more supplies.
Going into the 4th year of the severe drought, it's not just wells and job opportunities that are drying up, so are the funds to assist farm workers.
My office served, let's just say we spent over $600,000 in rental assistance in about 4 months. So the need is pretty great, and we still see the need now.
The funds that Proteus access for that program are tapped out. Food prices are going up for everyone because of the drought, with much of the nation's produce coming from California. Meanwhile, in Fresno County, many undocumented workers line up around the block for food banks. Less and less are able to provide enough food for their families.
It baffles me that there are people who are surrounded by this virtual cornucopia of food, and they might not have enough access to it to even survive, because as soon as they see these foods, this fruit, these vegetables, it's going off to someone else's table.
Access to water for personal use is also an issue for farm workers. Nacho Ledesma is a Mendota middle school student who we met at a cafe. He's seeing the impacts of the drought all around him.
There's a couple people that I know that they moved away because it's hard for them. They can't keep up with their bills. They can't keep up anymore. And it's hard for them because if they're not getting no money, then how are they going to pay for their water? Now that they put locks on the meters, so people can't turn them on to take a shower or to get a cup of water.
Paying for water is a big issue in the Central Valley. Wells in rural areas are drying up, and costs for drilling new wells have skyrocketed. Some farms can afford the increased costs and are drilling deeper to find the rapidly depleting groundwater. But this in turn affects surrounding wells, like Caro's, which is drying up. And the deeper you go, the saltier the groundwater. The UC Davis study says that groundwater is replacing as much as 75% of the agricultural water supply in California because of the loss of available surface water. Many local residents in Fresno County distrust the water coming from their taps and buy bottled water for drinking. Dwindling access to water, food, and shelter isn't where the impacts of the drought stops. It goes deeper. Joseph Amador is the mayor pro tem of Mendota and a former police officer.
Working for Fresno County, I could see the entire Fresno County reports, and Mendota was one of the highest of domestic violence. And I think sometimes, when things like financial issues become in the family and depression sets in, and things will happen, and that's unfortunate. You do see a lot of drug use in our community, and that's unfortunate. And we just have to, as society, try to work together to make it better. Out here in the rural area, to have a center where a person that wants to maybe get off the use of drugs, to be able to go in and get some help. You don't have it out here. You'll have it in the metropolitan areas, but not out here in the rural areas.
Amador said there is a center for domestic violence and rape counseling in Firebaugh, but that's 8 miles away. Caro has seen the same issues and how youth are being affected.
The youth are turning to gangs. If they have a hardship in the house, and it's really hard to notice, but there are more and more gangs out in the rural area, and they're becoming like family to the youth. And if they can't eat at home because there is no food, gangs can usually provide that for them. They fill the gap.
Youth in more stable homes do what they can to help their family. Miguel takes care of his little brother while his mom is out working. Nacho and his friends find ways to earn money so their family can survive.
My friends across the street, they work sometimes on the weekends, on a field, like just getting extra money for their parents. Because their parents are either getting older or they're retiring or they just can't do it anymore.
The average life expectancy for a farm worker in America is only 49 years old. Nacho's parents don't work in the fields. His mom works at Burger King and his dad can't work because of a stroke. So like others in the community, it's a struggle and Nacho does what he can.
Like, I kind of like go sell cans. Like, I'm not ashamed of it, Like, oh, go sell cans, Mom? I'm like, okay, Mom, I'm gonna go sell cans. Or car batteries, easy $6. I show my little brothers, sisters. Like me, I'd rather work now so I can see, okay, well, do I want to be doing this my whole life or just summers? I'd rather get an education. Me personally, I want to be a mechanic. I like working with cars.
Nacho isn't the only one looking beyond farm work for job opportunities.
I don't want it to become a ghost town. Agriculture has been the heart of our valley here. But if we're seeing that we're not going to get the water, let's look for other things to help the economy.
Amador wants the promised state Route 180 to go through Mendota, and there's been job fairs that include trainings for new solar plants. The organization Caro works for offers job training for this and truck driving, as well as jobs in local businesses. But transitioning is tough because undocumented farm workers aren't able to work so easily for other industries.
They talk about immigration reform. You can't be blind about it. People need to get their documents to work in these places like the solar plants and things like that. And so there has to be some type of immigration reform. People have been here for decades.
When it comes to getting legal immigration status for undocumented workers, it's anyone's guess when that will happen in Washington. And just like immigration reform, decisions in Sacramento over who gets access to water are complicated and politicized. Recent reports reveal that more than $320 million in state funds that were supposed to be rushed to drought-stricken communities are unspent. Authorized over a year ago, the money was supposed to provide water, protect wells from contamination, and upgrade outdated water systems. Caro, who is on the local drought coalition and has seen many protests for water allocations, has seen how challenging it is to find a long-term solution to the water needs of the Central Valley.
Allowing more water to come into the valley would let more salt into the deltas and be harmful. So I see both sides, and it's sad on both sides. I've seen the fact that if we have no water, the valley will die out. It'll turn into a dust bowl. And yet, if they allow more water, the salt will be harmful, and it'll eventually get to the valley here. We need an immediate fix, and water is the immediate fix, but where is it going to come from?
At this point, the only immediate fix would come from the skies.
Without the rain, without water, without a place to store the water, it's just going to get worse. At this point, we just need rain.
This is Diane Ruiz for People Power Media.